November 9, 2026. At exactly 11:57 p.m., the final train arrived at Ashcroft Station. It was an ordinary rainy night. The platform was almost empty. Only a few tired passengers waited beneath the flickering lights. Among them was Daniel Brooks, an investigative journalist returning home after covering a local corruption case. As the train doors opened, people stepped off one by one. An elderly woman, a businessman, a young couple. Then, the station clock suddenly stopped. 11:58. Every light inside the station flickered at once. The train conductor froze. His face turned pale. Without saying a word, he slammed the train doors shut. The engine roared back to life. The train pulled away. But Daniel noticed something strange. One passenger had remained standing on platform 13. A young woman wearing a long gray coat. She wasn't moving. She wasn't looking at the train. She was staring directly at Daniel. Then, she slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the end of the platform. There, hidden beyond the darkness, was another railway track. Daniel frowned. Ashcroft Station only had 12 platforms. Platform 13 didn't exist. Daniel looked around the station again. The other passengers were gone. Completely gone. Only the sound of rain echoed through the empty platforms. The woman in the gray coat hadn't moved. She still pointed toward the darkness. Against his better judgment, Daniel picked up his backpack and walked closer. Each step felt strangely quiet. As if the station itself had swallowed every sound. When he reached the end of platform 12, he stopped. There was another platform. Old. Dust-covered. Its rusted sign clearly read. Platform 13. The tracks were buried beneath weeds, as though no train had passed there for decades. A broken station clock hung above the platform. Its hands were frozen at 11:58. Daniel's phone vibrated. No signal. The battery suddenly dropped from 82% to 13%. A cold wind swept across the abandoned platform. Then, an old loudspeaker crackled to life. Static filled the air. A calm voice slowly spoke. Attention please. The Midnight Express to Hollow Creek will arrive shortly on platform 13. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He quickly searched the station map mounted on the wall. Platforms 1 through 12. Nothing else. No platform 13. Then, he heard it. Far beyond the darkness. A train whistle. Long. Low. And impossibly close. The rusty rails. The whistle grew louder. Metal screamed against metal. Out of the thick fog, an ancient black steam locomotive slowly emerged onto platform 13. It looked impossible. Its iron body was covered in rust. The windows were cracked. No headlights. No conductor. Yet it rolled to a perfect stop directly in front of Daniel. The carriage doors opened by themselves. Inside, every seat was occupied. Dozens of passengers sat perfectly still. Men in old military uniforms. Women dressed in Victorian clothing. Children holding faded teddy bears. Businessmen wearing suits from another era. None of them spoke. None of them blinked. Every pair of eyes slowly turned toward Daniel. The woman in the gray coat stepped onto the train. Before disappearing inside, she looked back. For the first time, she smiled. Then whispered only 3 words. Find seat 13. The doors remained open. Daniel knew he should run. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. Instead, He climbed aboard. The doors slammed shut behind him. At that exact moment, the station outside vanished. The windows no longer showed platform 13. Only endless darkness rushing past. Then the old speaker inside the carriage crackled. "Welcome aboard. The last journey has begun." Daniel slowly looked down the aisle. Every passenger was still staring at him. Except one. Seat 13 was empty. Waiting. Daniel slowly walked toward seat 13. The passengers never looked away. Not a single blink. Not a single breath. Only silence. As he reached the empty seat, he noticed something carved into the wooden armrest. "Don't fall asleep." His heartbeat quickened. He remained standing. The train suddenly lurched forward. Outside the windows, there was still nothing. No stars. No tunnels. No landscape. Only endless blackness racing beside the train. Then, a little girl sitting across the aisle quietly spoke. "You weren't supposed to board." Daniel froze. Before he could answer, she slowly handed him an old newspaper. The paper looked more than 50 years old. The headline made his blood run cold. "Midnight Express disappears." Below the headline was a black and white photograph. A train. Exactly like this one. Date: November 9, 1976. Passenger count: 113. Survivors: 0. Daniel frowned. "That's impossible." The little girl whispered. "They never found the train." Suddenly every light inside the carriage went out. Darkness swallowed everything. 3 seconds later, the lights flickered back on. Half of the passengers were gone. Their seats were empty. Daniel looked around in confusion. Then, he noticed muddy footprints leading toward the next carriage. One set. Then another. As if the missing passengers had all walked there together. At the end of the carriage, the connecting door slowly creaked open by itself. Something was waiting in the darkness beyond. Daniel tightened his grip on the newspaper and stepped through the creaking door into the next carriage. The air instantly became colder. His breath turned white. This carriage was completely different. Every seat was covered with thick dust. Old suitcases lay scattered across the floor. Some were still tagged with names and destinations. One suitcase caught Daniel's attention. The leather tag read, "Daniel Brooks." His heart nearly stopped. Slowly, he opened it. Inside were neatly folded clothes. His notebook. His camera. Even his press ID. Everything belonged to him. But he had never packed this suitcase. A soft voice echoed behind him. "You're late." Daniel spun around. An old ticket inspector stood at the end of the carriage. His black uniform looked decades out of date. His face was unnaturally pale. His eyes were completely black. Without blinking, he extended one hand. "Ticket, please." Daniel stammered. I don't have one." The inspector smiled. A slow, unnatural smile. "You boarded the train. That means you already paid." Before Daniel could ask what he meant, the inspector raised a small brass lantern. Its pale blue flame illuminated the carriage. On every dusty, the ghostly faces vanished the moment the lantern's blue flame went out. The ticket inspector was gone. Only his brass lantern remained on the floor. Daniel picked it up. The flame instantly reignited by itself. A folded ticket slowly slid out from beneath the lantern. Printed across the top were the words, "Midnight Express. Passenger number, 113. Destination. The last station. Departure time. 11:58 p.m. Arrival time. Unknown. On the back, someone had written a message in fresh black ink. When the train stops, do not step onto the platform. A deafening whistle echoed through every carriage. The train began slowing down. Outside the windows, darkness faded. An abandoned railway station slowly appeared through the fog. Its rusted sign read, Hollow Creek. The platform was filled with people. Hundreds of them. Standing perfectly still. Every face was turned toward the train. None of them moved. None of them blinked. The doors unlocked with a loud metallic click. One by one. The silent passengers inside the train stood up. Without speaking, they walked toward the open doors. Then Daniel noticed something horrifying. Every person waiting outside had the exact same face as someone inside the train. As if each passenger was about to meet their own dead reflection. Daniel stepped away from the open door. Every instinct told him not to leave the train. The warning on the ticket echoed in his mind. When the train stops, do not step onto the platform. Outside, the silent crowd remained perfectly still. Then, one man slowly stepped forward. Daniel's heart stopped. The man looked exactly like him. Same face. Same jacket. Same backpack. Even the small scar above his left eyebrow. The other Daniel smiled. Then calmly walked onto the train. Without hesitation, he sat down. In seat 13. At that instant, every passenger turned toward the newcomer instead of Daniel. The train speaker crackled. Passenger number 113 has been replaced. The doors began closing. The copy of Daniel looked directly into his eyes and whispered, You made the right choice. As the train pulled away from Hollow Creek, the ghostly station disappeared into the fog. Daniel collapsed onto the floor, trying to understand what had just happened. Then he noticed something impossible. His own reflection in the window was gone. No matter where he stood, the glass reflected. The train suddenly came to a complete stop. No whistle. No screeching brakes. Just silence. The carriage lights flickered one last time before fading into darkness. Then, every passenger disappeared. Seat after seat became empty. Only Daniel remained. Slowly, the train doors slid open. Outside was not another station. It was Ashcroft Station. Exactly as it had looked the night before. Rain fell softly onto the empty platform. Daniel stepped off the train. The moment both feet touched the ground, the Midnight Express vanished without a sound. As if it had never existed. Shaken, Daniel rushed into the station office. The night manager stared at him in disbelief. His face turned completely white. You. Daniel frowned. What? The manager reached beneath the counter and pulled out a faded missing person poster. Daniel's hands began to shake. The photograph on the poster was his own. Across the top, in bold black letters, it read, Missing. Daniel Brooks. Last seen. November 9, 2026. Exactly 50 years ago. Daniel slowly looked at today's newspaper lying on the counter. The date was November 9, 2076. Daniel stumbled backward, unable to believe what he was seeing. 50 years had vanished. He ran outside. Ashcroft Station was still there. But nothing else looked familiar. The streets. The buildings. Even the people. Everything had changed. Desperate, Daniel searched for his old apartment. It no longer existed. In its place stood a modern glass office tower. He hurried to the city library. Inside the digital archives, he searched his own name. One result appeared. Journalist Daniel Brooks disappeared without a trace on November 9, 2026, after being seen entering Ashcroft Station late at night. His body was never found. Witnesses claimed they heard a train whistle, even though no train had been scheduled that night. Daniel slowly closed the archive. He finally understood. He hadn't escaped the Midnight Express. The train had simply delivered him to a future where everyone believed he had died. As he walked back toward the station one final time, a familiar whistle echoed through the evening air. Far down an abandoned track, the black locomotive appeared once again. Its windows were filled with silent passengers. One empty seat waited beside the window. Seat 13. Then the station loudspeaker crackled. The Midnight Express is now boarding. For passengers who still have nowhere to belong. The train doors slowly opened. Daniel stood perfectly still. Then, the screen faded to black. No one knows whether he stepped aboard again. But every year, at exactly 11:58 p.m., some travelers at Ashcroft Station still claim they hear a distant train whistle, even though Platform 13 has never existed.